In the bustling streets of a city known for its towering skyscrapers and endless hustle, there lived a boy named Ethan. He was a simple young man, born into a life of poverty, but rich in heart and spirit. Every day, Ethan would rise early, not to enjoy the luxuries of life, but to toil endlessly, working small jobs just to keep food on the table for himself and his ailing mother. His dreams were simple. He wished for a life of peace and love, far from the struggles that defined his existence. Ethan's life took a sudden turn one fateful day as he walked through the city square. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden hue over the bustling crowd. That's when he saw her, Sophia, the daughter of the wealthiest and most feared man in the city. She was a vision of grace and elegance, with a smile that could light up the darkest of days. For a moment, time seemed to stand still, and Ethan felt something he had never felt before, a connection, a pull towards this mysterious, beautiful girl. As their eyes met across the crowded square, Sophia felt it too. Despite the world of wealth and power she had grown up in, there was something about Ethan's gaze that drew her in, something pure and sincere that she had never seen in the men who courted her. She found herself smiling back at him, a simple gesture that would change both their lives forever. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan and Sophia found themselves meeting in secret, far from the prying eyes of the world. Their love blossomed in the hidden corners of the city where no one cared to look. They would spend hours talking about their dreams, their fears, and the future they wanted to build together. Sophia had everything she could ever want, except the freedom to love who she chose. Her father, Mr. Davenport, was not just a wealthy man. He was a powerful gangster who controlled the city with an iron fist. He had plans for his daughter's future, and those plans did not include a poor boy like Ethan. But love doesn't care about wealth or status. It only knows the hearts it binds. And so Sophia and Ethan continued to meet, stealing moments of joy in a world that seemed determined to keep them apart. With each passing day, their love grew stronger, and the fear of what might happen if they were caught seemed to fade away in the face of their undeniable connection. The happiness they found in each other's arms couldn't last forever. Word of Sophia's secret love affair soon reached the ears of Mr. Davenport. He was furious, not just because his daughter had fallen in love with a poor boy, but because Ethan represented everything he despised: weakness, poverty, and a challenge to his authority. Mr. Davenport summoned Sophia to his grand office, the walls lined with gold and the air thick with the scent of power. She stood before him, trembling slightly but resolute. "I've heard troubling things, Sophia," he said, his voice cold as steel. "This boy, Ethan, he is nothing. He is beneath you. You will end this foolishness, or I will end it for you." Sophia's heart pounded in her chest. She knew what her father was capable of, but she also knew that she couldn't live without Ethan. Gathering all her courage, she looked her father in the eye and said, "I love him, Father, and he loves me. Nothing you say will change that." Mr. Davenport's eyes narrowed, and for the first time Sophia saw real anger in them. "You will forget about this boy, or he will regret ever laying eyes on you. That is a promise." True to his word, Mr. Davenport sent his men after Ethan, determined to scare him away or worse. They cornered him one evening as he was on his way to meet Sophia. They beat him mercilessly, leaving him bruised and broken in a dark alley. But even in his pain, Ethan's thoughts were only of Sophia. He knew her father was behind this, and he knew that if he didn't walk away now, things could only get worse. But how could he leave the woman he loved more than life itself? With every ounce of strength he had left, Ethan dragged himself to the place where they always met. When Sophia saw him, she gasped in horror, tears streaming down her face as she ran to him. What have they done to you? She cried, her voice choked with sobs. Ethan took her hand, his grip weak but determined. They can hurt me, Sophia, but they can't stop me from loving you. Sophia helped him to his feet, her heart breaking at the sight of his injuries. We have to leave this place, she whispered. We can run away, far from here where my father can never find us. Ethan nodded, knowing she was right. But as they turned to leave, a shadow fell over them. Mr. Davenport stood before them, his face a mask of cold fury. You think you can defy me? He snarled. You think you can just run away and be happy? I'll see you dead before I let that happen. Ethan stood protectively in front of Sophia, his body weak but his resolve stronger than ever. I love your daughter, he said, his voice firm despite the pain, and I will fight for her, even if it costs me my life. Mr. Davenport laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the night. You're a fool, he sneered. You think love will save you? Love is nothing in this world. Power is what matters. But as he raised his hand to signal his men, something inside Sophia snapped. She stepped forward, placing herself between her father and Ethan. Enough, she cried. This has to stop, father. You can't control everything. You can't control my heart. For a moment there was silence. Then Mr. Davenport's eyes softened ever so slightly. He looked at his daughter, the one thing in his life that had ever truly mattered to him, and saw the fear, the pain, and the determination in her eyes. He realized then that he had already lost. No amount of power or money could change the fact that his daughter loved this boy, and that love was stronger than any force he could muster. With a heavy sigh, Mr. Davenport lowered his hand. You're right, Sophia, he said quietly, his voice filled with a weariness she had never heard before. I can't control your heart, and I won't try to anymore. Tears filled Sophia's eyes as she looked at her father, seeing the man behind the power for the first time. She stepped forward and hugged him, feeling the tension melt away. Thank you, father, she whispered. Thank you for letting me choose my own path. Mr. Davenport held his daughter close, his heart heavy with the realization of how close he had come to losing her forever. He looked over her shoulder at Ethan, who stood there, battered but unbroken. Take care of her, he said gruffly, but there was no mistaking the sincerity in his voice. If you hurt her, I'll find you. Ethan nodded, too choked up to speak. He knew how much this moment meant, not just for Sophia, but for all three of them. As they walked away from that place hand in hand, the city around them seemed different, brighter, filled with new possibilities. They had faced fear, hatred, and pain, but their love had emerged victorious. And so, Ethan and Sophia began their new life together, building a future not defined by wealth or power, but by the love that had conquered all. In the years that followed, Mr. Davenport changed in ways he never thought possible. He stepped back from his life of crime, choosing instead to focus on the happiness of his daughter and her growing family. The city whispered of the old gangster who had found redemption through the love of his daughter. Ethan and Sophia lived a humble but fulfilling life, surrounded by the love of their family and the support of the community. They knew that their story was not just about love, it was about courage, sacrifice, and the belief that no matter how powerful fear may seem, love is always stronger. And in the end, love won. Here's a list of words that could be learned from the story. Bustling, full of activity and energy. Toil, work extremely hard or incessantly ailing, suffering from an illness or injury. Elegance, the quality of being graceful and stylish. Trembling, shaking involuntarily, often from fear or excitement. Iron fist, controlling something or someone with strict discipline and authority. Resigned, having accepted something unpleasant that one cannot do anything about mercilessly, showing no mercy or pity. Determined, having made a firm decision and being resolved not to change it. Defy, openly resist or refuse to obey, grudgingly, done or given reluctantly or unwillingly redemption, the action of saving or being saved from error, sin, or evil sincerity, the quality of being free from pretense, deceit, or hypocrisy. Weary, feeling or showing tiredness. Reluctantly, unwillingly, or hesitantly. Courage, the ability to do something that frightens one. Bravery, sacrifice, an act of giving up something valued for the sake of something else regarded as more important, victorious, having won a victory. Triumphant possibilities, things that may happen or be the case in the future, fulfillment, satisfaction or happiness as a result of fully developing one's abilities or character,